I sit here in this empty house, the kind of quiet that echoes louder than any boardroom ever did. I'm 76 now, staring out at a garden I never planted. Surrounded by walls filled with awards and plaques that gather dust like forgotten promises. My name is Edward Harlan, and I built a company from nothing, a tech empire that hit $200 million in valuation before I sold it off. People called me a visionary, a titan of industry. But let me tell you the truth, the one that hits harder than any stock market crash. I lost everything that truly mattered. I lost my daughter, and now, in the twilight of my life, I'm alone, wondering if all those late nights and missed moments were worth the empire I chased. It started innocently enough, back in the 80s. I was 28, fresh out of a dead-end job, with a fire in my belly that wouldn't quit. My wife, Sarah, and I had just had our little girl, Emily. She was this tiny bundle of joy, with eyes that sparkled like the stars I used to promise her we'd reach together. But I had dreams, big ones. I saw the world changing with computers, and I wanted in. So, I scraped together every penny, maxed out credit cards, and launched Harlan Tech from our garage. It was thrilling, that rush of creation. The first prototype worked, then the first sale, and suddenly, we were off to the races. Those early days were a blur of caffeine and code. I'd work 18-hour days, telling myself it was for them, for Sarah and Emily. Just a little longer, I'd say, kissing Emily's forehead as she slept, missing another bedtime story. Sarah understood at first. She was my rock, handling the home front while I battled investors and deadlines. But success has a way of pulling you under like a riptide. By the time Emily was 5, we'd moved into a bigger house, hired nannies, and I was flying coast to coast for meetings. I remember her first school play. She was a little flower in the garden scene. I promised I'd be there, front row. But a crisis hit at the office, a major client threatening to pull out. I chose the deal. Sarah sent me a photo later, Emily beaming in her costume, petals wilting a bit from the weight. I told myself there'd be other plays. As the company grew, so did the distance. Harlan Tech went from a garage startup to a powerhouse. We innovated software that revolutionized data management for businesses worldwide. By the 90s, we had offices in 3 states, hundreds of employees, and revenue climbing into the 8 figures. I was on magazine covers, giving TED-like talks about hustle and grit. Sacrifice today for tomorrow's freedom, I'd preach, believing every word. But freedom, what a joke. The more I built, the more trapped I became. Board meetings bled into weekends, product launches stole holidays. Emily's birthdays. I'd send extravagant gifts from afar, a pony one year, a trip to Disney the next, but I wasn't there to see her face light up. Sarah tried to warn me. We'd argue in hushed tones after Emily went to bed. "She's growing up without you, Ed," she'd say, her voice cracking. "Money can't buy back time." I'd nod, promise to cut back, maybe take a family vacation. But then another opportunity would knock, a merger, an IPO whisper, and I'd dive back in. Emily started drawing pictures of our family, Mom, her, and a stick-figure dad with a briefcase, always a step away. I kept them in my desk drawer, glances of guilt between emails. When Emily turned 12, things shifted. She stopped asking if I'd make it to her soccer games. Instead, she'd shrug, say, "It's okay, Dad. I know you're busy." That should have been my wake-up call, but I heard it as permission to keep going. The company hit $50 million that year, and we celebrated with a lavish party, champagne, celebrities, the works. Emily was there, dressed up like a little princess, but her eyes were distant. Later, I found her in the corner, scrolling through photos of friends with the dads at normal events. "Why can't we be like that?" she asked me once, quietly. I hugged her, mumbled something about providing the best life possible. But the best life, it was slipping away. The cracks deepened in her teenage years. Harlan Tech exploded to $100 million, then $150. I was acquiring competitors, expanding globally. Sarah and I drifted. Our conversations turned to logistics, who'd pick Emily up from school, who'd handle the bills. Emily rebelled in small ways at first, skipping classes, hanging with the wrong crowd. I'd get calls from the principal, rush home furious, lecture her about responsibility. "You have every advantage," I'd yell, but she fired back, "Advantages?" Like a dad who's never around. Those fights left scars. One night, after I missed her high school graduation for a crucial negotiation in Tokyo, she packed a bag and left for college early. Sarah begged me to go after her, but I said, "She'll come around. She's just dramatic." College years were a haze for me, more growth, more accolades. Emily studied art, something I dismissed as impractical. "You should go into business," I'd advise over rare phone calls. She'd laugh bitterly, "Like you, Dad." Chained to a desk, we grew estranged, conversations shortening to holiday check-ins. Sarah filed for divorce when Emily was 22. "I can't compete with your first love, the company," she said. I didn't fight it. I was too buried in work. The settlement was generous, but it couldn't mend what was broken. Then came the pinnacle, $200 million valuation. I sold a majority stake, cashed out like a king. Retirement loomed, or so I thought. I'd finally have time for golf, travel, reconnecting. But by then, Emily was 28, married to a kind man named Tom, living across the country. I reached out, awkward emails and calls. "Let's visit," I'd suggest. She'd hesitate. "We're busy, Dad." I pushed, showed up unannounced once. The tension was palpable. Over dinner, she laid it out, "You were never there." Birthdays, recitals, heartbreaks, you chose work every time. Now you want in. It's too late. Those words haunted me. But life doesn't pause for regrets. A few years later, Emily had a daughter of her own, my granddaughter, Lily. I saw photos on social media, this little girl with Emily's sparkling eyes. I yearned to hold her, to be the grandpa who told stories and built forts. I tried bridging the gap, gifts, invitations. Emily allowed supervised visits at first, but the resentment simmered. "You think toys make up for absence," she'd say. Then, tragedy struck. Sarah passed suddenly, a heart attack at 62. At the funeral, Emily and I stood side by side, strangers in grief. "Mom was always waiting for you," she whispered. "Don't make me wait forever." I didn't listen. Post-sale, I dabbled in consulting, started a foundation, anything to fill the void. But the empire's shadow lingered. Emily distanced further, calls unanswered, visits cancelled. Last year, at 75, I had my own health scare, a minor stroke that left me weak, contemplating mortality in a hospital bed. Alone, no one by my side but nurses and beeping machines. That's when it hit. Time is the cruelest thief. It slips away unnoticed, and suddenly, you're 76, in an empty house, with a fortune that can't buy back a single yesterday. I think about the missed chances now, the bedtime stories unread, the hugs not given, the "I love you" swallowed by conference calls. I built a $200 million company, but I lost my daughter. Not to death, thank God, but to the chasm I dug with my own hands. She's alive, out there with her family, but the bond is severed, frayed beyond repair. I've tried apologies, letters pouring out my soul, but wounds like that don't heal overnight. She's polite now, sends birthday cards, but the warmth is gone. And me, I'm left with reflections in the mirror, an old man wondering where the years went. Mortality stares me down these days. Doctors talk about managing expectations, but I know the clock's ticking louder. I walk through this house, rooms echoing with what-ifs. What if I'd chosen the school play over the deal? What if I'd turned off the phone for family dinners? What if I'd realized sooner that success isn't measured in dollars, but in moments shared, in love nurtured? The awakening came too late for me, a brutal dawn after a lifetime in the dark. I see now that time is finite, a currency more precious than any stock. We chase illusions of forever, but tomorrow isn't promised. Missed chances pile up like unpaid debts, and one day, you pay the price in solitude. I've learned lessons the hard way, etched into my bones. First, prioritize the people who matter. Work will always demand more, but family gives without asking. Second, success without fulfillment is hollow, a shiny shell with nothing inside. I had the world applauding, but no one to share the quiet victories with. Third, regrets are heavy baggage, don't carry them to your grave. Act on your heart's whispers before they become screams. And finally, awakening isn't about grand epiphanies, it's in the daily choices, yes, to presence over ambition. But here's the thing, it's not too late for you. I'm 76 and alone, a cautionary tale whispered from the edge. Don't wait for a hospital bed or an empty nest to wake up. Look around now, who are you neglecting in the pursuit of more? Your kids, your partner, your dreams beyond the desk. Time doesn't wait, it marches on, indifferent to your plans. Call that loved one you've been meaning to. Skip the overtime for a family night. Build memories, not just resumes. Because one day, you'll be where I am, reflecting on a life ledger. Make sure yours balances with love, not loss. I built a $200 million company, but I lost my daughter. Don't let that be your story. Act now, before it's too late.